All right, welcome back to the modular inventory tutorial part 7. So this time I'm gonna do some fix because I found some problems in there and I'm gonna improve a few things. So to start with, there's a bug with the stacking, with the stackable item. Let's take a look at that. So if I take one of those chests and increase the amount of items, well, let me change my layout. I like to have my file on the left, nodes, and inspector at the right. So let me add some items to the dungeon chests. Dungeon treasure chest. I want this one. Items. I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna add a bunch of crystals and maybe some bricks there. All right. So I'm gonna go in chest 2 here. I'm gonna go in the script right here. I'm gonna do item quantity is gonna be equal to the item stack size. So basically the item will always be at the max quantity. That's just for testing here. But here you could have a random number generator. So the quantity of item generated are random. That's something you can do. So if I start the game and I go look into the chest, then if I, let's say, pick my crystal here, I can split the stack. I can stack those. But then if I pick a full stack and put it on top of the not full stack, then the not full stack gets full, but the quantity of the item in my hand doesn't change. So there's the bug I need to fix. So let's fix that. So for this, we're gonna go into the inventory slot and we're gonna go in here. So put item. So that's where we place the item in the inventory slot. And we're gonna go and add a few comment here because I think I'm lacking a bit of those. When you get inside put item, the first thing is if we're trying to place an item, it's going to be the new item because we have an item in our hand. Then the else if is if we want to pick an item that is already in the slot with an empty hand. And the last part here is simply return the item or null. So then let's go in the has new items. And in this one, so the first thing we do here is if there is already an item in the slot, then here it's where we check if we are stacking an item or swapping them. And the other option here is simply place the item in the empty slot. Then we go down to the has both item. So here we will check if the item in hand and the one in the slot can be stacked. So if it can stack, then we will add the item quantity to the item that is already in the inventory slot. And here, if there's no remainder, then we return null. So the item we have in our hands will be removed. But this is where I forgot something because this is supposed to be here. The new item, the one we're trying to stack, its quantity needs to be equal to the remainder. And here we could simplify a bit this part. Instead of checking if we have a remainder, we can simply remove everything here. And at the end, when we return the new item, if its quantity is greater than 0, or else we'll just return null. Then this little block here is swap the item in hand with the one in the slot. So this one is pretty simple. All right, so now let's see if we can stack our item correctly. So here I have my 2 stack not finished, and if I click with this one, there we go. So now I only have 10 remaining in my hand, and if I split it again and try to put it here, well, that one is correct. And if I do 20 on there, 50. All right. Now, the other thing I would like to fix is when you mouse over an item and you close your inventory, then the item info stays there and it stays there until you mouse over something else. But then if you don't have anything open, it's a bit annoying. That is something that will fix. So these problems come from when you try to mouse over the inventory slot and mouse exited. So those signals are here, mouse entered and mouse exited. And those are connected in the inventory manager. So those are correct. But the thing is when you close the inventory or any other inventory container, this signal is not fired. So we'll have to fire it ourselves. So what we'll do is go a bit lower in here and in canvas item, we have the visibility changed. So this is pretty interesting. Emitted when the visibility, hidden or visible, changes. So that's what we're looking for. Let's double click that on item container, visibility change. All right. We will simply emit the signal mouse exited. So our other signal. But the problem with this is when we close a chest, we remove the inventory from the tree before hiding it. So what we'll have to do is change a bit the inventory code, and I'll add two little functions just to deal with the isOpen in here. So at the bottom, I'll add them here. So I'll have a function to open, and there is going to be the close function, which will just set the isOpen to false, and for each slot will send the signal mouse exited. So this should also send the signal for there. So in here, it's mostly for the inventory containers, which might remove the inventory panel from the tree before hiding it, because if a node is not in the tree, then their signals won't be fired. If I go in the inventory container script, and when I close the inventory, so on inventory close, I will set it to false. So here I need to change it. Instead of isOpen, I need to close. And instead of isOpen, I could always do open. So that's a bit better. So when you close the inventory, here we remove child, so we remove the inventory from the tree. Or what you could do is also move the hide above, so it's hiding it before removing it. But yeah, so if we start that, if we hover an item and move away, it closes. And if we pick an item and put it in our inventory, look at it, and then close the inventory, it's going to hide too. So that's a bit better. Now, the other thing I'd like to improve is when you pick up an item, the info stays there. And if you swap the item, the info doesn't change. So this we can also improve. So for that, we're going to go in the inventory manager. And if we move down, we have the onGUI input slot. So that's where when you click on the inventory slot to stack the item, pick them up or drop them. And at the bottom of it, at the end, we'll simply do that. If there's an item in the slot, we'll call mouse entered. And if there's none, then it's exited. It's going to show the info or hide it. And if we go in game, look at the rarity upgrade kit, pick it up, the info goes away. If we mouse over the potion, we see it. And if we swap, then it changes the info. That's better. So we can mouse over the other one and swap it. And yeah, then if I move away, close it. And when I put it in my slot, it shows the info. So that's pretty good. All right, so the other thing I'd like to improve is the scaling. So right now, when we have our inventory container and we have the list of inventory you can have in there, let's say I add a inventory, just drag an inventory in the list, then that's good, the size is correct. But if I have two, then it doesn't scale. It's only going to scale from the code that we have. So if I go in the code here, then that's where when you open the inventory, we change the size. For every inventory, we add it to the Y value, so it's scaled correctly. But there's a way to do that automatically and clean a bit our code here. And it's a lot better. So let's take a look at that. So if we look at the inventory here with the nodes, the first one, I'm going to change it for a panel container. Right click, change type, panel. So this one, the square panel container, change. Now everything will break, but we can fix that. So if I go back in my inspector, I'm going to go in the theme override style, and I'm going to put back the panel behind. So here, new style box texture, open this, and here I'll find my panel texture. So it was the main panel. All right, and then I'll zoom in here and place the lines. I'll make it pixel snap so it is precise. All right, and then here a bit lower, there's going to be the axis stretch. I'm going to put that to tile so that it's not stretched on the side, but it's tiling. And there you go. That's good. Now, since it's a panel container, you can't control the size of the children. So what I do here is I add a control node, and that's going to be the title. Well, title 2. Let's bring the title inside of this node. Let's move this up. This is the title. This one I'm going to change it to. The close button will come in here. So just to start with, I could select my close button, scale it down so where it was. Then I'm going to do layout, top right. Let's zoom in a bit, and I'm going to move it on the side. Then for this here, I could do like I have on the item info. I'm going to move the label out of there. The title will go in because this is the title panel. And this one I'll do show behind parent in the visibility, then show behind parent. Check that. So panel will be shown behind the label, and the label will control the size of the panel. This one, let's scale it correctly. Then we can make the layout full rect. Oh, yeah, that's correct, but the label is too big, so we can scale down this one. Then we can play a bit with the placement of the title. All right, that should be good. And now I can go in layout, and top wide should be good, and move it up. And yeah, you can play around with those settings until you get something that you like. All right, and then the label, we're gonna go in the growth direction, and we'll change the vertical to begin. So that means it's gonna grow from the beginning, so the top. We can test that if we go back up and add some text. It's gonna grow upwards, so it's gonna scale itself, right? If we change the scale of the panel, the title will follow. That's good. And now for the inventory, it's already working. Let's say I pick a inventory panel and just drag it inside the inventory container. All right, the size is correct. But then if I duplicate this one, there, it's perfect. And if you want to change the padding around, I think it's from the inventory container in your style box. It's here where you place your lines. That says where the content will go. The content will always go in the center. So we can adjust that here. So I move that a bit like that. So my inventory panel are contained correctly. Then you can always play with your inventory container, custom properties, theme override, constants, separation here. You can always play with those. Now we could do the same with the inventory panel. So let's go in the inventory panel. And here, what we'll do is pretty much the same. We'll change the inventory, change type. We'll pick the panel control. We'll go in the theme override and do a theme override and change the panel. I need to fix the title, so I'll add a node, just a control node, and put the title in there. All right, so now for the slot container, let's try to add some inventory slot in there. Inventory, put one in there. Now it's a bit too high. It's going to go over the inventory name, well, the title of the inventory. So what I'm going to do is add a margin container. So here, add child node, margin container, double click that, and I'll put the slot container inside of it. So this one, I'll go in the theme override, constants, and the top, margin top, I can add a bit more. Maybe 6 would be good. All right, so now let's test. If I select my inventory slot and add more, so I have 5, and if I add more, it should scale. Then there you go. So automatic scaling. You don't have to deal with that with the code, because right now for the inventory, if we go in the code, yeah, we deal with the Y size and we calculate which size it should be. So this we would be able to get rid of it. But what is even more interesting is you can also change the number of columns that you have here. So if I go in my slot container here, right now I have 5, but if I want to have a big inventory, I could, let's say, put 10. Then if I add more slots, then the inventory will scale. Except that here I need to set my texture rect here for my title to be centered, center top. Then I'll scale it down in the center, and that should be correct. Now if I add more inventory slot, that's pretty good. Now let's remove those. Yes, I'm gonna maybe move down a bit my title, and then let's scale it a bit down, and there you go. That should be correct. I'll put my slot container back to 5, save this. And now that this is done, I'm gonna change my code for my inventory here. So here we can simply delete this line. The size, we don't have to set it anymore. Then we can go back in the inventory container and clean this a bit too. So here we can remove where we set the Y size, delete this one and those. So the inventory is open. If there's no inventory here, we can return. So yeah, that's it. We just remove those lines. But there is one thing we need to do before trying the game is, since we changed the type here, it was a 9-patch rec, the inventory GD here extends a 9-patch rec. So I need to change that. I can just put a control and it should be good for any type of control. So is this working? Yes, it is. So let's open a chest. And I forgot to remove the other 2 inventory I added, but we can see that it works. The 2 inventories inside are taking some space, and the new one is using the other one. If I open another chest, then it's here. So that's cool. Yeah, this one has 2 rows, and this one has 3, and the scaling is done by itself. So that's pretty cool. Now I need to fix the dragging, because the tile doesn't drag, the side drag. But that's because of the new node I added. I need to put the mouse filter to pass. So right there, select the title, go in the mouse option, filter, pass. and we'll check if everything else is okay. Mouse path, title, mouse path. I'll put the close button over. All right, I'm gonna remove those two inventories. Yes, go back. So now I can drag the inventory, and from the side, from the top, that's good. If I open this one, size is perfect. All right, now that we have this with auto scaling, we could do the same for the player inventory. But instead of doing all of that again, what we can do is just save the panel in a scene. We can call it window and just inherit from the scene there. So let's try to do this. I'm gonna use my inventory container here. The only thing I'm gonna do is Control Shift S to save as, and I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna put it in UI, and I'm gonna do window. Save this. Then this is my window. I'm gonna change a bit the naming in here. Window, the title. This inventory container, I'm gonna remove it. Then the label title, I could simply do the Windows name. So now that I have this, I can also change the script. I'm gonna remove this one and add a new one. So UI window, create, and the code here will be pretty simple. Let me put it there. So that's gonna be the code for the window. We have the class name window. We'll get the label title. So this we can set it right now. If I click my window, label title, assign, it's gonna be the label here. All right, go back to script. It will extend the draggable control. We'll be able to drag it around. Then we'll have a variable title that we'll be able to set, and it will call the set title, which will set the label title. So that's pretty simple. Now, since the close button is here, we can simply use it here. So when you press close, it will close, but we'll also have a close function because some other container has different thing they can do when they close. So for example, the inventory container will remove inventory from its array. So you'll have to override this function. So save this. Now let's change the inventory container to use the window. So what we'll do is we'll find the window scene that we just created. I'll do right click, new inherited scene. Then we'll have this. Now here, what we can do is change the stuff so it's like what it was with the inventory container. Just to be a bit more easy, what I can do is right click here, merge from scene. Then I'll go in my inventory container, that's the one. Then I'll import everything here, okay. Then it's gonna put it inside. So what we need here, we can keep the name, inventory container, the inventory container list. This one we need it in the parent. Then we can delete this one. Delete nodes, yes. So I can rename this one, inventory container. All right, then the title here, the inherited title, we can change it. So label, inventory. Then I need to change the script here. So now it's window. Let's remove that. Let's pick the inventory container script, GD. Let's put it on it. And we need to set the inventory container list. So set that. All right. Now if I save, I will save over. Let's go in the inventory. I will save over the inventory container here and save. File exists. Overwrite? Yes. Okay. Then that's it. My inventory container is now using the window. So if I come back in my inventory container, here I still have my rec size Y. This I can remove because the auto scaling will deal with that. The unclosed pressed, this I can delete this. It's going to be dealt with the window. The window will deal with this. This close here will deal with removing the inventories and everything. And if I go here with the little icon there, open an editor, I'm going to open the window, the inherited window. Then I'm going to go click the close button. I'm just going to reconnect the pressed button just to be sure that it's connected to the right one. Connect and connect, unclose press. And the last thing we need to do in inventory container is extends window like this. And now we should be able to just start that. And if we look at our chest, we can close it. That works well. And open the other one. The dragging works. And we're using the inherited panel. And this panel, we can use it for the inventory here and the settings too. So I'm going to change those and come back with that. Windows, a new inherited scene, players, inventory, merge from scene, inventory player, inventory container, drag it in the main one, delete this one, assign the variables, inventory, and that's it for the player inventory. Let's go in the code for the player inventory. I can remove the closed. That's it. Yeah, save that. Inventory player, over inventory player here. Yes. let's do the settings window. Right click, new inherited scene, title, settings, merge from scene, settings, import everything, the setting list in the main, the settings I can delete, that's it. Then we need to reconnect the signal for those, change the script, assign slider, full screen checkbox, the label minimum, label maximum. Then if I take a look at the function on slider GUI input, that's going to be this guy, H slider node. On scale slider, I'm going to disconnect and put it back. On scale slider GUI input, connect to this one, good. The checkbox, disconnect, toggled, connect. It's connecting to this one, perfect. Then I'm going to change the name here, settings, save. Over settings here, save, yes. And don't forget to change the extents for window and the inventory player window, all right. And if you get this error here, node not found relative to this path, then it might be because in your scene inheriting from the window, the label title somehow got lost. So you just refresh the little arrow here and it's going to pick the label that you set in the parent, in the window scene. And in my inventory container, I have that too. Inventory container. All right, click the little arrow and label come back. Now, if we test this, all right, so the player's inventory is using the new window panel. Let's see, the chest is using it and the setting is using this too. So the X closes the panel. For everyone, it's using the same. The scale is set automatically. So if you later want to change those pockets or something else, you can change the width too. If you add more slots column, so let's say you go to 10, then the panel will scale accordingly. Also for the inventory here. Well, I can test it if I close that. So I'll go in the inventory panel. I'll select the slot container and change this for 10. And if I start this, then every inventory will scale to contain 10 inventory slots. They will use the space if they need it. Oh, well, the X button is not anchored correctly here. It's going behind. So let's fix that. A window. So my little X button, yeah, it's not anchored to the right side. So anchor top right, then shift and left up. There you go. Save this and let's go back. Now if I open my inventory here, my X is correct. So yeah, it's gonna use the 10 column, then jump and do the rest. This one only has one row with all the item in there. So if you want to use a window for anything else in your game, you can use this little window that we just made. And now let's change the item info to be auto scale also. For the item info, we already did the name, but now we'll do the content. So here I'll do the same that I did for the panel. I'll change that for a panel container and set the title and everything. All right, so that's done. The item info is a panel container. The title is inside its node, and this one should already be working. The name will scale up. Then this line container now should scale with the text it contains. So if I add a line, a label, do test, then it scale down, and if I add more, it's going to scale with this. If I add a long text, it's going to scale in the width. I can delete those. So that's it. Now let's go with the code. And everywhere there's a reference to the size, we'll be able to change it. So let's remove rect size here, global position, this is correct. At the bottom here, all of this can be removed, and the yield tree can be removed. Now there's one thing. We need to set the size to 0 every time, or else the panel will grow bigger, but it will not scale down for the next item. So what we'll do is just before showing it, rect size is equal to vector2.0. So it's going to be super tiny, but the panel container will force it to be the correct size. So yeah, if we look at that, it's pretty much it for the scaling. All right, so now onto the next thing to fix. If you have an item in your hotbar, when you try to look at it, then you can't see anything. It goes away. And it's the same if you have your inventory next to the border of the screen. The item goes out of the screen. So we can fix this pretty easily. And let's do that. In the item info script, we simply have to add a few lines. Like I'm going to use this one. I'm going to move it down since it's going to go with what I'm going to do. So here at the top, we'll set the info. And here we'll set the position and everything. There you go. So this code. Window size, we'll get the size of the window of the game. Then we'll calculate the scale of the item info. Then here we'll check if the position plus the scaled value is greater than the screen size, then it means that the window is getting outside. So we'll clamp it back, we'll force it to be the window size minus the size of the panel info. So it should stay in the screen. If we try that, oh, here we have a little problem with the scaling of the inventory container, because I think the inventory is smaller than the initial size of the panel. Just to fix this little thing quickly, you just need to get your inventory container and scale it down, just so it starts small. Save that. So we can come back here, and now it's scaled correctly. But yeah, let's go back to the item. Let's bring the inventory on the side of the screen, and look at the crystal, and they appear on the other side until the info has enough space to spawn. Well, if we bring it down, it's gonna spawn on top of the bottom of the screen, and if we put it in the corner, you're gonna do both. Pretty good. And then now you can put your item in your hotbar and look at them. So you'll see the information. It's not gonna be outside. All right, so that's pretty much it. I wanted mostly to fix the stacking problem, and since I was fixing that, I thought I could add some improvement for the UI. But yeah, if you have any suggestion about stuff to add in there, let me know. Else, I'm gonna keep working on the crafting tutorial. Yeah, that one should be interesting. I'm probably gonna start with a basic one and probably try different type. We'll see. But yeah, so thanks for watching. That was pretty cool. And thank you. Thanks a lot to my patrons. And a special thanks to Lithaline. Thanks a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. I guess. Bye-bye.